that big commotion behind me is the new Nike launch.
Less than an hour. That was all it took. One Nike shirt carrying Alex Eala's name appeared online, and before most casual tennis fans had even noticed the release, every available size was gone. Small, medium, large, finished. Meanwhile, other names on the same storefront remained available. Jannik Sinner's merchandise was still sitting there. Carlos Alcaraz's was still available. Aryna Sabalenka's gear had not disappeared in the same sudden wave. And that is where this story becomes much bigger than a $42 shirt. Because Alex Eala is not supposed to be the obvious commercial favorite in that group. She is 21 years old, a Filipino tennis star ranked among the best players in the world, but she does not yet carry the decades-long global brand recognition of tennis's biggest champions. She does not have the commercial machinery that normally follows a world number one. She does not have the same established market history as the sport's most recognizable superstars. Yet when Nike gave her one of the biggest tests of her commercial appeal so far, the response was immediate. The product vanished, and suddenly, one question became impossible to ignore. What exactly is happening around Alex Eala? Because this was reportedly not just another local merchandise release aimed at the audience that had already followed her rise from the beginning. This was a far more significant step. Her name was placed on Nike's main U.S. storefront, putting her product in direct competition with some of the biggest names in world tennis. For the first time, the test was no longer limited to whether Filipino fans would support her. The question was whether her name could move in one of the most competitive sports markets on the planet. And if the sellout is an accurate reflection of the demand described in the original report, the answer arrived with shocking speed. This is important because merchandise does not simply represent popularity. It represents action. A social media like costs nothing. A comment takes seconds. A trending hashtag can disappear as quickly as it appears. But purchasing a product is different. It requires a fan to stop, click, decide, and spend money. That is why brands pay attention to moments like this. Attention is one thing. Conversion is another. And according to the story surrounding this Nike release, Alex Eala's supporters did not just watch. They moved. The shirt itself was relatively understated. Black fabric, a floral design, Eala's name. No massive signature, shoe launch. No stadium-sized advertising campaign. No months-long build-up designed to manufacture hype. It reportedly began with something simple, a social media post showing the product, a tag to Nike, and suddenly the reaction took off. But the design also carried meaning. The floral imagery referenced the sampaguita, the national flower of the Philippines, a symbol closely connected with purity, humility, resilience, and national identity. For many supporters, this was not simply another piece of sportswear. It was a connection between a rising global athlete and the country that has followed her journey with extraordinary intensity. And perhaps that is the first clue to understanding why this moment happened so quickly. Alex Eala is not being supported only as a tennis player. She is increasingly being embraced as a symbol of possibility. For years, Philippine tennis has waited for a figure capable of breaking through on the sport's biggest stages. Tennis has produced talented Filipino athletes before, but Eala's rise has created something different. Her victories are not viewed in isolation. They are experienced collectively. Every breakthrough carries the feeling that history is moving with her. Every new ranking milestone becomes a national conversation. Every appearance at a major tournament gives millions of people another reason to watch. And that kind of connection can create a fan base that does not behave like a traditional audience measured only by ranking or trophies. It behaves emotionally. It reacts instantly. It shows up together. That may be the most important lesson hidden behind an empty Nike product page. If a brand looked only at the rankings, Alex Eala might have appeared to be a reasonable but relatively conservative commercial investment. A player ranked around the top 20 is an elite athlete, but elite tennis is full of top 20 players. Most do not instantly sell out merchandise. Most do not generate massive reactions after every match. Most do not create waves of attention that spill beyond the sport itself. But Eala's audience has repeatedly shown signs of behaving differently. Her rise has not followed a perfectly smooth curve. It has come through sudden moments of explosion. One result leads to another. One historic performance introduces her to a new audience. That audience remains. Then another breakthrough brings an even bigger wave. The pattern becomes cumulative, and eventually A player who may appear on paper to have a certain level of commercial value begins attracting attention far beyond what the ranking alone would predict. That is why the Nike story matters. The shirt may be the evidence, but it is not the cause. The cause may be something that has been developing for much longer. Earlier in her career, Eala produced the type of result that changed the scale of the conversation around her. Her breakthrough at a major event pushed her name beyond the traditional tennis audience. Suddenly, people who had never followed the WTA rankings were watching highlights. Fans who could not explain the details of her draw knew exactly who Alex Eala was. Clips traveled through social media. Her name appeared in conversations that had nothing to do with tennis the week before. That is the moment when a rising athlete begins to cross from being a sports story into becoming a cultural story. And once that transition begins, the rules can change. Rankings still matter. Results still matter. But they are no longer the only things driving attention. A player can lose and still become more popular. A player can exit a tournament early and still dominate the conversation. A product can sell out even when there is no championship celebration attached to the release. That is the kind of pattern the Alex Eala story appears to be building. Her first major WTA title added another layer. Winning changes perception. It proves that a player is no longer simply a promising talent with a bright future. It tells the world that the future has started arriving. When Eala captured the biggest title of her career, the reaction reportedly flooded in immediately from Filipino supporters around the world. And that global connection matters. The Philippines is not a small, isolated fan base contained within one stadium or one city. Filipino communities are spread across continents. When a moment captures national attention, the reaction can travel across time zones almost instantly. A fan in Manila sees it. A supporter in the United States sees it. Another in Europe shares it. Someone in the Middle East watches the highlight. The response does not have to wait for a traditional marketing campaign. The network already exists. All it needs is a trigger. A major victory can be that trigger. But according to the story surrounding Eala, victory is no longer the only trigger. That may be what makes this phenomenon so interesting. Consider the moments when the attention remained high despite the scoreboard. At Wimbledon, Eala stepped onto one of tennis's most famous stages and faced an enormous challenge. The result did not go her way, yet the conversation surrounding her performance extended beyond the basic language of winning and losing. Fans were still talking. Her name was still moving. Interest remained. That matters because a player whose popularity depends entirely on victories will usually see attention rise and fall with the scoreboard. Win, and the numbers jump. Lose, and the conversation cools. But when a player represents something larger, the relationship becomes more durable. The supporters are not following only the result. They are following the journey. They are watching the struggle, the milestones, the pressure, the setbacks, and the possibility of what comes next. That is a far more powerful foundation for long-term commercial growth. Then came Cincinnati, another tournament, another result that, under normal circumstances, might have slowed the momentum. But according to the story, it did not stop the Nike merchandise from disappearing almost immediately afterward. Think about what that suggests. If demand had been connected only to a fresh championship or a dramatic winning streak, an early defeat should have reduced the urgency. Maybe the product would still have sold well, but perhaps over days rather than minutes. Instead, the demand reportedly arrived with the same intensity. That is a major distinction. It suggests that the people buying were not simply reacting to what Alex Eala had done that week. They were responding to what she had come to represent. And for a sports brand, that can be both exciting and difficult to predict. Brands are used to planning around events. A player wins a grand slam, so inventory increases. An athlete reaches a final, so the campaign accelerates. A championship creates a predictable window of attention. But identity-driven popularity does not always follow the calendar. It can surge on an ordinary day. A simple photograph can activate thousands of people. A short video can create a wave of engagement. A merchandise post can become the center of attention even when no tournament is taking place. That makes the Alex Eala phenomenon potentially more complicated than a traditional athlete endorsement. Nike may have entered the release expecting a standard test of demand. If the original reporting is correct, the result exposed a much more concentrated and immediate market than anyone expected. Of course, there is an important detail that should not be ignored. A limited merchandise release can sell out quickly because the available stock is small. That possibility must always be acknowledged. A sellout alone does not automatically prove that demand has reached superstar levels. Inventory size matters. Distribution matters. Pricing matters. Availability matters. But the comparison described in the original story is what makes the situation intriguing. If several athletes were offered products in the same collection on the same platform and under similar conditions, yet one item disappeared while others remained, the contrast becomes the story. Alex Eala was not simply selling merchandise. She was creating urgency. And urgency is one of the most valuable things in modern sports marketing. Fans do not wait because they believe the opportunity may disappear. They buy because they do not want to be left out of the moment. That may explain why criticism of the product's design reportedly did little to slow the momentum. Some people thought the shirt was too simple. Others questioned the price. In most situations, that kind of criticism can weaken demand. But this time, the product's visual appeal may not have been the main selling point. The name was, the symbolism was, the connection was. The shirt became a physical way to participate in Alex Eala's rise. And that brings us to the deeper question. Has tennis been underestimating the commercial power of Southeast Asian audiences? For years, the biggest marketing strategies in tennis have focused heavily on established markets. The United States, Europe, Australia. Certain global stars are given enormous campaigns because their commercial value has already been proven. But sports do not stand still. New audiences emerge. New markets develop. New athletes create emotional connections that older marketing models cannot always measure immediately. Southeast Asia has enormous potential as a sports market, but potential only becomes visible when there is someone capable of turning interest into action. Alex Eala may be becoming one of those athletes. She has something that cannot simply be manufactured in a boardroom. Authenticity. Her story makes sense to the audience supporting her. They watched her develop. They followed the difficult stages. They celebrated the breakthroughs. They understand the historical significance of every ranking barrier she breaks. When she walks onto a major court, many supporters do not see just another player entering the stadium. They see someone carrying an entire sporting dream with her. That emotional investment can create remarkable loyalty. It can also create moments that traditional data struggles to predict. A ranking spreadsheet can tell Nike where a player stands compared with everyone else. It cannot always tell the company how quickly thousands of people will react to a social media post. It cannot measure national pride. It cannot perfectly calculate emotional attachment. It cannot predict the speed of a global Filipino fan network when everyone receives the same signal at the same time. Sometimes the first real measurement arrives only when the inventory disappears. And if Nike does restock the shirt, that could provide the next major test. One sellout can be explained away. Maybe the initial supply was too small. Maybe the timing was perfect. Maybe the company underestimated demand on one particular day. But a second release would be different. By then, the story would be public. Fans would know what happened the first time. More people would be watching. The surprise would be gone. If demand remained strong under those conditions, the argument that this was merely an accidental shortage would become harder to maintain. Then the conversation would shift from what happened to how big can this become? And the timing could not be more interesting. The US Open is approaching, bringing one of the biggest audiences of the tennis season. This is the moment when casual sports fans return. Major television coverage increases. Social media becomes more crowded. Brands activate their largest campaigns. For Alex Eala, it could become another opportunity to test the distance between her ranking and her actual cultural reach. A strong performance in New York could create another wave. And this time, Nike and every other major sports brand will be watching with much more information than they had before. That is the significance of the empty shelf. It may have been the first signal that the old way of evaluating Alex Eala is no longer enough. Look only at the ranking, and you see one picture. Look at the reaction surrounding her, and you see another. The ranking tells you where she stands in tennis today. The audience tells you what she could become tomorrow. Those two numbers do not always move at the same speed. In fact, the most interesting athletes are often the ones whose cultural influence begins accelerating before their sporting resume reaches its final form. Alex Eala may still have enormous chapters left to write. At 21, her career is far from complete. There will be difficult losses. There will be injuries, pressure, criticism, and moments when the momentum slows. That is unavoidable in professional sport. But if the Nike sellout described in this story is a sign of what is building around her, then one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Her growth is no longer confined to the tennis court. She is becoming a commercial story, a national story, and potentially a global sports story at the same time. And perhaps the most remarkable part is how quickly it has happened. Not long ago, her name was known mainly by dedicated tennis followers and the people who had watched her development closely. Now, stadiums are reacting. Major brands are putting her name on products. International audiences are paying attention. Every new tournament carries the possibility of another breakthrough. Every new result can introduce her to millions more people. The Nike shirt may eventually be remembered as a small detail in a much larger rise. But sometimes the smallest moments reveal the biggest changes. A shirt disappears from a website. A few hours pass. Fans celebrate. Then the story spreads. Suddenly, people start comparing the names that remained on the shelf with the one that did not. And the question changes from whether Alex Eala is popular to whether the tennis industry has fully understood just how powerful her audience is becoming. That answer will not be found in one merchandise release. It will be tested again and again at the US Open, in future WTA events, in stadium attendance, in television numbers, in sponsorship opportunities, in the speed at which the next product drop disappears. The next few weeks and months could reveal whether this was simply one extraordinary moment or the beginning of a much larger commercial shift. But one thing is already difficult to deny. Something is happening around Alex Eala. Her ranking tells one story. Her results tell another. But the reaction of her fans may be telling the most important story of all. Because when thousands of people can move together with almost no warning, when a player can generate conversation after both wins and losses, when a simple piece of merchandise becomes a symbol of national pride, that is no longer ordinary sports fandom. That is momentum. And momentum, once it reaches a certain point, can become impossible to ignore. Nike may have discovered that in less than an hour, the rest of the tennis world could be next. Now, the real question is whether this wave slows down or whether Alex Eala is only beginning to show the sport its biggest brands and the world just how far her influence can go.